Welcome to Istanbul. So the Blue Mosque, the Hagia Sophia Church, and the Basilica Cistern are all next to each other. You'll visit those all in the same day because they're so close to each other. But there's a strategy, and you really should know the strategy. So there's a few things about Istanbul that I just loved, and there's a few things I really hated. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through a couple things that'll definitely enhance your Istanbul experience. I guarantee it, I promise you. Istanbul is the only city in the world that spans across 2 continents. Istanbul connects Asia and Europe physically and culturally. And this is the video I wish I had watched before I came to Istanbul. So hang out with me today. This video is going to really help you plan your adventure. So there are things about Istanbul that I absolutely loved, and there are a few things I really hated. And so hang out with me for a little while. I'm going to save you from, falling into some traps that I really wish I had known about before I came here. So, hang out with me for a while. You're going to really enjoy this little sneak peek into Istanbul and the amazing neighborhood with which I stayed in. So I stayed on the European side in the Galata district, right near the Galata Tower. And I have to be honest with you, if I were going to do it all over again, I would stay in the same place. Amazing neighborhood to stay in, especially for a first timer to Istanbul. So let me show you this unbelievable apartment that I rented through booking.com. I mean, just wow. So it's called the Lewis Apartments, but it was a hotel that I rented through booking.com. I mean, as you can see, it was a stunning suite that I had here, overlooking this beautiful street, dotted with cafes and cobblestone streets, direct access, to the Galata Tower. This was a really cool, hip neighborhood, and if I were going to come back to Istanbul, I might stay in the very same apartment. So, if this might be something you want to consider, you can check it out for yourself. So I stayed at this little hotel 2 times. Once when I first arrived to Istanbul for around 5 nights. Then I went to Cappadocia. And by the way, you should check out my Cappadocia video if you're going to do Turkey. Anyway, when I came back from Cappadocia, I came back and I stayed at this hotel another night before I headed back to where I live, which is Bangkok. So anyway, the neighborhood, awesome, really cool. I often would spend my mornings at this little cafe right across the street and enjoy a good breakfast there. But this is a central location to everything in Istanbul. You can get anywhere from here in the Galata district. So let me first tell you what I really liked about staying in the Galata district here in Istanbul. So I really liked that there were cafes everywhere. Istanbul is like dotted with extremely wonderful cafes, really interesting cafes. I'm talking really good coffee. And they're everywhere. You can just go hang out at cafes all day long. So if you like good coffee and finding good, unique cafes, Istanbul will not disappoint you for sure. But one of my favorite cafes, and I learned this in another YouTube blog, I'm going to show you later on in the video, and that's something you don't want to miss, and you will if you don't actually hang out in the video. You will not know about this unless you learn about it in a YouTube video, because you just won't know it even exists. So later on in the video, I'll tell you about my favorite cafes and how to find them. So it's only fair that I tell you what I like and what I didn't like. And so here's what I really did not like about Istanbul. In fact, this was the number one thing about Istanbul that I did not like. So I didn't know this before I came here, but what I learned very quickly was Istanbul, or Turkey, is the #1 city in the world for smoking, cigarette smoke. And so while you won't probably have to climb through cigarette smoke inside the cafes that I so love, if you're sitting outside at a cafe, which you will do in the warmer months, you will have to climb through cigarette smoke to find some fresh air to breathe. I didn't really like that very much, and I didn't know about it until I arrived in Turkey. But this city is very intensive on their cigarettes. They love to smoke here. So you got to get used to that. It's everywhere you go in Turkey. It's everywhere you look. There'll be cigarette butts on the cobblestone streets everywhere. It's just the way it is. So you got to expect that. I just want you to prepare your expectations. This is a cigarette-heavy country. So when you stay in the Galata district, it's really easy walk to the main pedestrian street, which is Istanbul. There's a tramway that you can take and go everywhere in and around this district. You know, it's a very convenient place to walk. The cobblestone streets are really cool to walk and check out. Another thing I didn't like is that these cobblestone streets are, they allow cars on them, so it's kind of strange. Sometimes you're walking along what looks like a pedestrian street, but then all of a sudden you got to get out of the way for a car to pass this little narrow street. Sometimes it's actually somewhat dangerous, but anyway, you live and you learn, and it's just part of the culture and part of the life here in Istanbul. It's busy, by the way, when you walk these amazing little streets, dotted with cafes and little boutiques and shops, and a lot of energy here. And you know, while you're in Turkey, you know, don't forget to think about coming to Cappadocia. You would be sad if you were in Turkey and didn't visit Cappadocia. So be sure to check out my Cappadocia videos. And to be honest with you, I actually like Cappadocia better than Istanbul. I mean, I loved Istanbul, but Cappadocia, just wow. So check out that video. So the famous and historic Galata Tower absolutely dominates the entire neighborhood, and it dates back to the 13th century, and it definitely offers the best view of Istanbul from the viewing tower at the top. So if you want to pay to go up to the top of the tower, you can see the absolute best view of all of Istanbul from the top. 360-degree views from the top. So yeah, it's an awesome neighborhood. So when you're in Istanbul, you're going to see a lot of people just sitting down playing board games, specifically backgammon and other board games. Really cool, really popular here. And later on in the video, I visited one neighborhood where I took a ferry across to the Asian side, where that is the #1 thing that people do all day long. And that neighborhood is actually super cool and super hip. And you don't want to miss heading out to visit that neighborhood by taking the ferry, which is one of the best things to do in Istanbul. So there are cats everywhere in Istanbul, and it keeps the city free of mice. So if you do stay in the Galata district, it's really easy to get to the waterfront. You can just walk down the hill, and you can watch the boats in the water all day long. Very busy place, by the way, the waterfront here in Istanbul. But also really easy to walk across the Galata Bridge over to where you're going to want to view all of the things that you're going to want to see when you're in Istanbul. Okay, so the Basilica Cistern, the Blue Mosque, and the Hagia Sophia Church are all within very close walking distance to each other, and 3 things that you're all going to want to see when you're in Istanbul. So the Basilica Cistern, like, amazing thing to do. You got to visit this place, and I'd recommend visiting it early in the morning to avoid the crowds. But you know, this was filmed in this is featured in the James Bond From Russia with Love film. And by the way, this was built in the 6th century. So I mean, this is really old, and it was built solely to hold water. You got to get down in here and check it out. I mean, words can't do it justice. It's something that you must do when you're in Istanbul. So I was less enthused with my visit to the Blue Mosque, okay? In my opinion, the only good thing about the Blue Mosque was looking at it at night with the lights on. Waiting in the long line over an hour to get inside to look at this one room with 1,000 people with no shoes on, I was not impressed. While it was free to get inside, there's a reason it's free. It's just not worth the wait. So enjoy the view from the outside. Go inside if you have a lot of patience, and you must do it. Otherwise, I would avoid going inside the Blue Mosque. So Hagia Sophia is probably the most historically important building in all of Istanbul. Built in the 6th century as a Christian church, it definitely was, well, it was the largest church in the world for a very, very long time, for many centuries. Anyway, yeah, this is something you must do. However, you need to understand that, you have to pay to go in here unless you're a Turkish citizen or unless you are of Muslim religion. So this church was recently converted back from a museum back to a mosque just in 2024. The current Turkey government converted it back to a mosque. So Muslims can enter through the lower entrance in order to pray, as it's now a mosque. And tourists who want to visit the church must enter through a separate entrance and must pay a fee of 25 euros. And by the way, you're going to enjoy a very long line. And, sadly, the beautiful, beautiful floor on the bottom of this historic building, which is, like all this extraordinary, amazing tile work that's many centuries old, is now covered up with carpet for prayer services. When Muslims come to pray there, they have to pray on the carpet. So anyway, that's sad. You won't be able to see all that beautiful tile work that was done centuries ago, and you'll have to go in through the upper level. But this is a must-do thing while you're in Istanbul. I particularly don't think it was wise of the Turkey government to turn it back from a museum back into a mosque and do what they've done. But that's not for me to say. But I just said it. But anyway, this is something you should wait in the line to do, as it is the most important building, in my opinion, in all of Istanbul. So we just crossed over the Galata Bridge, and you always see fishermen there, lots of fishermen doing their thing, and a lot of boat traffic. It's always exciting to hang out over that bridge. But, getting back into the Galata district, the restaurants are hopping, the cafes are busy, and always exciting nightlife and activity around here. And so hang out with me for a little while longer, and then I'm going to take you on the amazing ferry. And that's one amazing thing that Istanbul has, is ferries that take you to the Asian side, the European side, whichever side you're on. But you want to make sure you take the ferry. In fact, the ferry is a better way to see the river and to see the water than taking the organized boat. So you won't find Istanbul people taking boat trips. You'll find them taking the ferries because they're actually better, and they're like pennies to do. It's really cheap. So you want to definitely take the ferry to go to the other side. And in this case, we're going to take it to go to the Asian side. So hang out with me for a bit. So I told you about this earlier. You definitely want to take the ferry in Istanbul. You must do it. So if you're staying in the Galata district, you just walk down the hill to the Karakoy district where the ferry terminal is. So you get to the ferry terminal, and above the ferry terminal is, in my opinion, the best cafe, the best place to enjoy a coffee and watch all the activity in the harbor. Absolutely the best coffee, fantastic, amazing bookstore, and you just get a little seat there and just watch all the boats coming in and out. And then get on the boat and take it to the Asian side, and that's what we're gonna do. So hang out with me. So probably my favorite day in all of Istanbul was to take the ferry from the ferry on the Europe side over to the Asian side to hang out in this neighborhood. I absolutely loved it, and I think you should definitely dedicate an entire day to do this. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. It would really make me very happy if you would give this video a like and subscribe so you can go on another adventure with me. I mean, yeah. So I've got adventures all over the world, and don't just stop with Istanbul. We've got so many other adventures to do together. So hang out with me for a while. I really thank you for hanging out with me today. And while you're in Turkey, it would be a shame not to check out Cappadocia. So be sure to visit my Cappadocia videos. Thanks so much.